on our way right now to the gravesite of Octavia Hatcher, who was presumably buried alive about 100 or so years ago. So we're going to go check out her gravesite right now. This is a really old cemetery. If I'm not mistaken, it might be the oldest one in this city. Wasn't planning on this. You can see how some of these graves are just so old, but the names and dates are just dated from, it's crazy, very old cemetery. Getting ready to come up on the statue of Octavia Hatcher. So this story of Octavia Hatcher begins really in 1891. She's 20 years old. She's married to a very wealthy man named James Hatcher. Almost forgot. They are married. They have a son. The son is born. They name him Jacob, but unfortunately, Jacob died in infancy. This is 1891 in rural eastern Kentucky. So after the death of Jacob, Octavia falls into a severe depression, a postpartum depression, which is followed by an illness where she falls into a comatose-like state. She's unresponsive, she isn't talking, and her family and friends believe she is dead, so they call in a doctor. Now remember, this is 1891 in rural East Kentucky, so healthcare isn't the best in the world. Octavia is declared dead, and it's the middle of summer, or it's getting close to summer, and it's very hot and very humid. If you've ever been to Kentucky in the summer, you understand how humid and hot it gets. So the family decides to have a quick burial. Not long after Octavia is put underground, other residents of Pikeville start experiencing the same symptoms Octavia had, falling into an illness and then to a comatose-like state. People believing they are dead, but they start recovering. So Octavia's family begins fearing the worst. Have they buried her alive? Once people begin recovering from this illness, Octavia's family has her body exhumed, and what they find is a grisly discovery. Her fingernails are ripped to shreds, the linen in the coffin is torn to pieces, and she has this frozen look of fear and despair on her face. What they feared the most, they realized. They had buried Octavia alive. Octavia's husband was distraught. He was heartbroken. He's buried his wife alive. So he has a life-size monument erected as her headstone, overlooking the city of Pikeville. This is where things start to get very interesting and strange, and where fact mixes with urban legend. So, the legend goes that on certain nights, or Halloween nights, the statue of Octavia Hatcher turns her back to the city of Pikeville, the city that buried her alive, for that night. Some people claim to have seen the statue turn. Some people claim that the statue's head follows them as they walk past. So let's go check out the statue, the life-size monument that James Hatcher had built for his wife. Okay, so we're almost up here to the actual grave site of Octavia Hatcher. I hope it's not locked. Let's see. It is open. Because I do know at one point they had a vandalism issue up here with people breaking in. And here we are. The gravesite of Octavia Hatcher and her son Jacob. So there he is, the life-size statue of Octavia Hatcher. You can see it says Octavia down there at the bottom. That is a creepy sight, just looking up at it. Octavia. And the inscription, it's faded pretty bad, but I'm gonna try to read it. Octavia J, daughter of Jacob and something, maybe Smith, wife of James Hatcher, died May 2nd, 1981. Aged 20 years, looks like 11 months and 11 days. And also Jacob, their infant son, died January 4th, 1891. Aged, it looks like it says 1 day. Wow. And you can see other visitors have been here before. They left some pennies or other coins up here on the grave. This just gives me an eerie feeling being here, knowing the stories behind this statue. It looks like this statue is missing an arm. Here is the monument to Jacob. You can see the headstone here. It says Jacob. Oh, there's something on the bottom. What does this say? Our baby Jacob. Man. You know, this is real life, man. This is a true story. This woman lost her child and was buried alive. Just think about that for a minute. And right here is Octavia's marker. And right in front of it, of course, is her life-size monument, whom people say turns its back on this city, the city that buried her alive in 1891. So James went on to live his life, and he is actually buried right here next to us at the feet of Octavia and his son. Here's an interesting thing I read about James. When before he died, he designed a system for his coffin, where a string was ran from his coffin to the ground and attached to a bell. That way, if he was ever buried alive, he could shake the string, pull the string, and ring the bell, and people would hopefully hear him and dig him up. That's creepy all on its own when you think about it. I mean, gosh, that's a scary thought, isn't it? Having to rig up your own coffin with a string and a bell, praying to God you're not buried alive. So let's take a look at James's grave. Here we are at the gravesite of James Hatcher, 1859 to 1839. Phew, man. Buried right at the feet of Octavia, right beside their son Jacob. And I noticed just a moment ago, Jacob's grave seems to have been vandalized over the years, or maybe just fallen apart due to old age or the elements. I'm not sure. But that is the story of Octavia Hatcher, a young woman from Pikeville, Kentucky, who lost a child in infancy and ended up being buried alive.